Hey, gang. So I'm deeply concerned about the city of Burbank's perpetual state of deficit. And they're going to tell you over and over again, I've heard, it's COVID, it's COVID. No, it's not COVID. Our city has been kicking the can on their budget deficit for years. And the reason is, you've got people that are running the city who are so desperate to get reelected or get votes or whatever, they just can't bring themselves to just saying no. Certain people, you just got to say no. Let's talk about the budget deficit, and I'll explain what I'm talking about here. And we'll get to one of the really big items that the city has been really messing up on for a really long time. If you look at the current budget, this is the adopted budget for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. And if you take a look at it, page 11, you can download this yourself. You will see that the budget deficit in the city heading into fiscal year 2021 to 2022 is going to be, something about $6.7 million. Now, the city has been in deficits, perpetual state of deficit. And how do they solve this deficit? Well, for years, they've been transferring money from your power bill. So you go, well, how does the city get funded? Sales tax, lodging tax, fees, permits, whatever. The city gets a lot of money for the general fund. Of course, we pay taxes into the state, income tax. We pay DMV fees. We pay, a little tiny portion of, registration on your car. We have insurance tax. We have corporate income tax. All of these state taxes get organized, and a good portion of them go to education. Then the cities get a good portion of them. Then you have local sales tax. Now, why do we have local sales tax when we have all those state taxes being collected to help fund cities? Because, taxes stay locally. In other words, our property taxes stay local. They don't just go away. They stay local, but the state manages that money. So, if you look at the city's local sales tax, that's a real recent thing, 0.75%. And if you look at your power bill, you're going to see a little fancy word called in lieu transfer. Well, in lieu transfer is basically a tax, right? They're taking money off your bill to shore up all their budget deficits. In fact, the city doesn't have a $6.7 million deficit for the fiscal year. They really have a much bigger deficit that's probably closer to $30 million because the BWP, if you take it as a separate thing, because you're paying rates to BWP, they take some big fat portion of your power bill, your water bill, and they move that over to the general fund for making up for the deficit of Burbank. Now, this has been going on for a really long time. I tried to stop it with, court action, and the judge agreed. It was like an illegal tax, so they put it in front of the voters, and they went ahead and had the voters agree to it by saying, well, we need better roads. We need, if you don't vote for this, we're going to have less police and less fire and all that. Sure, if you don't manage a budget properly, you're going to have to give up stuff, right? So I said early on, well, why don't we look at the golf course? Oh, no, you can't touch the golf course. No. Well, first of all, let's talk about what it is. It's a golf club. The city of Burbank at the moment is currently considering spending more than $2 million to upgrade the sprinklers at the golf club. Do you play golf? I don't play golf. I asked the city council member, do you play golf? No, I don't play golf. I asked my neighbor, do you play golf? No, I don't play golf. I asked the guy at the copier shop, do you play golf? No, I don't play golf. I asked my really rich friend who lives in a huge mansion, 5,000 square foot with, basically he's retired. He's been wealthy for a long time. I said, do you play golf? Oh, yeah, I play golf. Well, why don't you play at DeBell? I said, it's not the best golf course. Okay. And I said, well, where do you play? Play here, play there. Do you have a membership? Yes. Well, how much did you pay for that membership? $11,000 to initiate. And then I paid, $600 a month. Oh, okay. Well, you can go to the club. You can actually go to the club here at DeBell and you can book a tee time here, and you can go ahead and go to a public tee time, and you can play golf at the golf course for some tiny little amount of money, as little as $8. Well, that sounds like a good deal until you think about who's paying for that. It's the city taxpayers, you and me. Okay, so the golf course had to be self-sustaining for a really long time. It was called an enterprise fund. That means it had to, the income and expenses had to meet themselves in the middle. They had to be successful, right? So 10 years ago, the city commissioned a consulting company, National Golf Foundation, and this company produced this really fancy report, and a really nice report. They produced a really fancy, beautiful report that talks about the golf course and evaluated it. 10 years ago, the city was aware that there were a lot of problems with the golf course. Not only were there problems with the golf course, there was a problem with golfing, which is that there's a declining interest in golf nationally and regionally. And there's a lot of competition for golfers. And they also needed to improve their advertising marketing. And they also had too many vendors. They had inadequate parking. And they had too high overhead and a lot of utility expense. And that the reality was that they needed to make some changes. Well, a lot of recommendations were made. But unfortunately, despite all that, these recommendations, and them telling them, well, wait a minute, be careful because you may lose money. Eventually, what happened was they, in fact, kept kicking the can down the road, saying, well, we don't want to eliminate the golf course. We don't want to get rid of the golf course. People want the golf course. I'm like, no. Maybe a couple people want the golf course, but not very many people want the golf course. So they terminated the enterprise fund, and they made the golf course. You can see the staff report here, May of 2017. At the time, Ron Davis was the city manager. And the DeBell Golf Enterprise Fund was terminated, meaning it no longer had to make money. It now would become a park. And you and I would pay for people to play at the golf club. So we would make up the shortfall. Well, no wonder they're losing money. We have over $2 million in capital improvements that have to be made on the sprinkler system. And the people that were renting the golf course were only paying $60,000 a year. Wow. Whoa. Think about that for a minute. $60,000 a year for that big place? No wonder it was losing money. And no wonder the city's constantly in debt. And they also were only paying $25,000 in capital improvements. Well, hello, they need $2 million just for sprinklers. You know how many years it would take them to repay that capital improvement expense? You can do the math. So, these very nice people over here at the city decided they were going to turn this very expensive luxury that only a very small number of Burbankers use into a park. Oh, so now it's a park where all you can do there is play golf. Yeah, you can go eat, you can go hang out or whatever, but who hangs out at a golf course unless you're playing golf? All right, so let's keep going. So let's talk about, a little bit more about the budget deficit. How are we ever going to get rid of a budget deficit as big as $6.7 million? Well, I said, why don't you guys turn it into a park? Okay, people like parks, right? So let's take a look at the National Recreation and Park Association gave a report a couple of years ago, and a very nice man, Dr. Crompton, had written a report explaining that the golf business has been in decline for a really long time. There has been a decline in golfing since 2003, and there are 6.8 fewer million golfers in 2018 as compared to 2003, 22% reduction. Now, the city was already losing money, and now you're telling us that 22% less golfers in like less than 20 years. Well, I can tell you that I see the writing on the wall. Well, why has golf declined? Because people are busy, playing is difficult, courses are difficult to play, it's expensive, it's incompatible with contemporary busy lifestyles, okay? So 200 golf courses fail a year. Oh, wow, that's a lot of failures. For some reason, the city thought their failure should be picked up by the taxpayers. No! That when the enterprise fund failed to make a profit, they should have turned it into a park, okay? Why do people like golf courses? Well, the reality is people bought properties in 91501 to be next to a golf course initially. But nowadays, anybody I speak to that's moving to Burbank in 91501, they're not buying because they can play golf. They're buying because they want a nice view. It's a nice little hillside area. They're buying because they want good, good access to restaurants and nice places to go or whatever, good schools, whatever their vision is. And the reality is that reconfiguring a failed golf course is emotional. People get emotionally resistant to the idea of removing a golf course completely. So my suggestion is, well, why don't you look at, helping relieve the taxpayers from all this expense by turning the DeBell golf course into a smaller course, like 9 holes, and turning the rest into a public park. You would need to increase parking. One of the complaints about DeBell is that parking is problematic. So let's talk about the writing on the wall. Here is an email I received today, 2 hours ago, from the folks over at the Burbank Chamber of Commerce. This is interesting. Burbank Chamber of Commerce. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, Mario Lopez, famous television personality and movie actor and host, is doing a golf classic. But where is the golf classic being held? Lakeside. Well, let's take a moment to look at where Lakeside is. Lakeside Golf Course. Okay. So Lakeside Golf Course in Burbank. It's a perfectly nice golf course. So why do people go to Lakeside? Well, I've heard many reasons. It's nicer. It's a better course to play, blah, blah, blah. Well, at the end of the day, here's what's interesting. They make money over there. It's a profitable golf course. So why did Mario Lopez's organization, St. Providence, St. Joseph, choose Lakeside over DeBell? Well, you have to ask these questions. It's a reasonable question. Now let's talk about this. This is the Burbank Bulletin. This is our local newspaper. I think it's the last local newspaper we have left, put out by the Brad Korb Real Estate Group. And let's scroll down. We're going to scroll through and take a look at this. The Sip Sip Soiree Gala 2022, the Boys and Girls Club. Here, our own Boys and Girls Club of Burbank is holding their Sip Sip Soiree. And where are they having that lovely event? On May 14th at Lakeside. Okay? Folks, in order to get out of a perpetual state of deficit, the city needs to be really realistic and come to the realization that residents should not be paying for a failed golf course. When it failed and the enterprise fund was a failure, they should have gone ahead and repurposed the property into a park or partially repurposed it and got rid of all of the non-profitable aspects of the club. I welcome you. I think it's a good idea for you to go look at these budgets. They're found at the Financial Services Division webpage, and scroll through and take a look at them and really understand why we're losing so much money, why taxes keep going up, why we have a local sales tax, why the city council is talking about raising the lodging tax again, one of the highest in the nation, why the city is constantly in a perpetual state of deficit, and the golf course losing millions of dollars is one of the reasons. It's common sense. Golf is in decline. Turn it into something else. At least with a park, the public would actually be able to come, have a barbecue, have a picnic, and use it. They can't do that if it's in the middle of a green where people are playing golf. But if people could go up there, you could possibly set up the DeBell, turn it into the DeBell Park instead of the DeBell Club, an exclusive place where people play golf. You could turn it into DeBell Park and have amusements and have playgrounds and have, events and have things. But you can tell that even our own county supervisor, who I voted for, and our own local events, like Mario Lopez's event, they don't even want to use DeBell. They would prefer to use Lakeside. So it's no surprise that DeBell continues to be a money pit for residents. Please reach out to the city council. Please reach out and insist that they get their budget in order. Get their house in order, get their budget in order, and look towards a future with tax reductions and budgets that are balanced. That's the only way that Burbank is going to survive, is if they clean this up. Thank you for listening.